Yo guys, what's up? This is Sugi and thanks for joining me today on my latest AD carry guide, which is Graves. And Graves has been a very strong laner since of its release in 2011. He has been one of the champions that deals most damage early on. So he had a very strong early on laning phase and early damage output. And he's been a bit of a lane bully, and in no stage of the game he had a really a pure counter that was really good against Graves. And right now, as of right now, Graves has been a very primary pick because he was very strong. He has good numbers, he has good kit that really enforces this playstyle, and it is kind of easy to play. Like unlike my Kalista guide, which I did not too long ago, Kalista is very hard to play, and Graves is one of the easiest ones, probably the second easiest. So I'm gonna briefly go around a bit of the abilities and what they do. If you want more clarification on them, check out the LoL Wikia page about Graves. So let's talk about the passive. You have True Grit, which gives you armor and magic resistance every second while he remains in the combat, which stacks up 10 times. So this means that you auto attack a bit more into minions, but you still last hit them. I usually shove the lane a bit more. I usually try to keep the True Grit at 10 when I go to engage, because it gives you a lot of sustain in the game and gives you more of an edge against your opponent. And it's very strong because it gives you so much stats. 10 armor and 10 magic resistance, 10 stacks early on is a lot, and this will be the breaking point why he will win the trades early on, because the stats are just giving you too much boost. Then you have his first ability, Q, Buckshot, and this is the ability you max out first and start out with Buckshot as well. Buckshot is like a in-cone bullet damage, which deals different damage to hit by enemies at the close range will hit by multiple projectiles, but beyond those will deal only 40% of the damage. And it has a relatively low cooldown. It lasts around 8 seconds, and it's good for wave clearing, good for poke, and I think it's very high damage early on, one of the best. As of its range, it's not biggest boomerang shot or Caitlyn's Q, but it's still one of the best, and I think it's best for wave clearing because the damage doesn't drop from the bullets if they hit multiple minions, which kind of makes the Graves one of the better AD carries because of that. It kind of has superior wave clearing. The second ability is called Smoke Screen, and this pretty much is made for zoning the opponent. It doesn't slow too much, almost nothing, but it's meant to throw to AD carry or support so they have no vision and they can't communicate, or they will do a misposition because of this. It's really good for zoning. I usually throw it on the direction where the jungle is coming from because they don't want to move through it because they lost vision and they get slowed. It has actually very high range, which is making it really cool. It gives you actually a bit of vision through where you throw it at, and it's a really great ability, but you max out it last though. The third ability is called Quick Draw, and this is pretty much like an attack speed steroid, and compared to other AD carries, its duration is only 4 seconds. Well, it's pretty much the same as other people, but it goes really fast. So you usually engage going with E to get the dash. You dash in, then you Q, then you ulti, or other way, you dash, you ulti, and then you Q. And you try to auto attack much as possible. Each auto attack against non-structures will lower the cooldown by 1 second. So this means that if you're playing with a Runan's Hurricane, I'm not saying you should build it, but in some cases when you super head on, it might be good. It can actually draw, the attack speed will be insane because you have quick draw all the time on, because each of the Runan's Hurricane stacks will throw you hit 3 opponents, that means 3 seconds per each hit. And the last rank is cooldown is 14 seconds, so I guess it's 5 hits and you have the quick draw back again. Of course, if you have CDR from some items like Yumu, it will be less than that. And then we have Ultimate. Ultimate works very similar to Q, so the impact damage is higher than the explosion damage. So that's something that you need to understand, that the collision damage will deal, the explosion damage deals less damage than the impact. So the people at the back will take less damage, but it will take like a lot of more damage. I mean, they take less damage, but still they take a considerable amount of damage from that. And then I'm gonna talk about a bit of the masteries and runes. So for the rune parts, it is pretty normal stuff. You know, Graves is not anything like very different. I like to play with attack speed Quints on him. So you get 14% attack speed from the Quints. I like to play that rather than lifesteal. He has very good sustain from his passive, and you start with Orange Blade, so having 4.5% lifesteal is kind of whatever. You can take critical strike rune Quints if you want, they can work too. You take, of course, 80 reds, armor seals, and magic resistance per level or flats. And of course, you are able to... armor penetration never works, so don't try that. As for the Masteries part, AD carry build is very normal. You have 25-4-1, so I take the utility tree to scout. Having trinket range is really important because you don't need to face check so much. Graves has a lower range to other AD carries, so you kind of have to go much closer sometimes, and that's some kind of weakness of Graves. He can get outranged by Jinx and Caitlyn and late level Tristana and Kokma, and I guess others, but his range is still going to be enough to trade on because you can just go in with your E. So I take the code from the utility, from the defense, I take block and enchanted armor because of the armor buffs and everything stacked through that, and the block is really good for training. The offense tree is very similar. You get like the Havoc, the Devastating Strike, Frenchie, the normal stuff, Dangerous Game of course. And I don't actually take Butcher or Feast, I take 1 rank on the Sorcery as well because, well, 1% cooldown is actually 1 second out of your ultimate, so that's pretty good. As what comes to Graves's like laning phase, as I said early on, he has no like, you can blind pick him every time because he's super strong. Only weakness that Graves has is maybe not the best champion to fight against tanks. He can out-sustain because you will always go for Bloodthirster in most cases, but for the laning matchups and tanks in general, you don't have percentual damage, so that is the only weakness that Graves has. But he has like high damage, and he's best against like mage and low, like other AD carries, slaying other AD carries and low health targets like LeBlanc or something like that, because he can burst them down really fast. But tanks are kind of harder for him, so sometimes I itemize for 6 like items early on. I mean 6 damage items. As what comes for the items, I start with Doran's Blade, Potion, and a Ward of course. After that I will go Bloodthirster or Infinity Edge. It really changes. Usually Infinity Edge is better item when you are hit on, you get few kills, and you go Infinity Edge because of more gold. But before I start to build Infinity Edge, I start with Vampiric Scepter and take Avaraz's Blade, because if I go like losing the lane bit early on, the Avaraz's Blade will give you extra gold from minions and the gold GP5, so I won't get like behind them much. Having more attack speed on certain builds will give you, like using PD is really good because you can get your quick draw open again, but I like going static shift because it gives you more burst damage. So you E in, you do the static shift proc, then you Q, and then you ultimate, and that just bursts everybody down. And I think that's kind of Graves' best mentality, as doing like a burst damage rather than damage over time type of playstyle. And after Bloodthirster and IE, I usually finish static shift, and then I build Last Whisper, and then I go either again Bloodthirster or Infinity Edge. Last Whisper might come later after these items depending on the case. And as for boots, I'm kind of like a niche player when it comes to boots, so I don't always play with Berserker's Graves because I play with attack speed Quints. 25% attack speed is not that much, so sometimes I take Mercury Treads or Ninja Tabi to outtrade other AD carries, or being less in CC. Ionian boots actually are okay too. They're kind of more niche. You can also build Trinity for Graves. It's really good for the burst damage output, and of course Hex Drinkers can be built, and Scimitar is an okay item too. As for the Hurricane item, it's not probably the best in slot, but it can work in some niche situations where you have multiple targets, because Graves gets so much lifesteal. He can stay so much in combat with like Hunans and Bloodthirster together. And thanks for watching this video. Hopefully this was insightful how I'm playing Graves, and you find a build and you find something about this. And consider subscribing, liking, and giving the video a thumbs up. I'm gonna make more AD carry guides in the upcoming month, and stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching.